Well, hello, good morning everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back. I hope you guys are doing fantastic out there. I've got an interesting video for you today. Behind me, I picked up a project bike. This is a 1969 Honda CT90. This is a Honda Trail. I picked this up. It does not run. Got two extra wheels there. Those tires are pretty well dry rotted. Pretty bad shape. But I have an extra sprocket, an extra hub, extra spokes, rims. Same thing with this tire. This tire is bad. This bearing is seized up, but I have rims. Now here's a look at the bike. It does not have any turn signals on it. It's a very solid metal frame. I bought the bike as is. It does not run. You can see that this boot for the shock is missing. They have like some vinyl or something here, and the tires are cracked and things like that. I did put air in them a few minutes ago and they are holding air so far. There's a couple things that I wanted to find out about this bike before I purchased it, because I'm buying it as is. I wanted to make sure that the motor is not seized up. So I wanted to make sure that this thing would move, that the motor's not seized up. And it met that criteria. And the other thing that I was looking for is that if I purchased this as a project, I wanted to make sure that for the most part everything was there. And it appears that everything's there. It does sound or feel like there might be some decent compression there. As you can see, it's very dirty and things like that. It needs quite a bit of work. There's no turn signals. These lines are broken. It's missing a handle here. 4,507 miles on the speedometer here. Just gonna need a lot of work. Needs a battery. Did come with those extra lights there on the ground. I'm looking at the carburetor and the air cleaner and stuff. It's definitely gonna need this carburetor cleaned. It's filthy, it's dirty. This is one of those kind of neat carburetors. It's got a choke right here. Put it up to choke and down to run. And then it also has this little knob, which I'm not going to pull too hard on until I go through the carb. But this is when you're above 6,000 feet of elevation, you can pull this knob and it'll run a lot more lean. So it'll give it more oxygen and less fuel. So very cool. And this has the 2-speed high and low range gearbox. Everything looks to be intact. Somebody painted it blue. The seat is actually in pretty good shape. So you pop this up and there's the gas tank. So it looks like it's a good project bike. It's gonna need a lot of cleaning and I'll probably do a lot of work to it. They had some wonky little switch here. And I'm gonna have to put an ignition in it. I've already ordered the ignition. So that'll be really the first plan of attack. And then the next thing is underneath this cover. This is where the battery is. So I'll pull this cover off. So there's the battery. This is a 6-volt battery. And from what I understand, this bike will not spark efficiently unless you have a good battery. I'm going to try to pull this battery out and see if it'll take a charge. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I did notice on this back wheel that the tires have cracks in them and stuff. And it is holding air. I put air in it a little while ago. But I noticed there was 2 spokes that were broken. I think it's on this other side over here. 2 spokes. Yeah, there's one right there that's broken. And then you spin it a little bit more. And there's another one. It does have the kickstand as well as the center stand. The chain appears to be in good shape. The sprocket appears to be in good shape. And this is when they built things solid. I mean, this is all metal I mean, this thing is built very solid. The shocks, they have these little screws down here. You can put new fork oil in these. It's probably going to need these lines to be replaced, probably the throttle line, because when I did the throttle here, it felt kind of tight. So I'm going to have to go through these lines. They go through the handlebars and they come out. So I'm definitely going to have to do some work there. I did pull the dipstick, and I was looking to see if this thing had oil in it, and it does. Fairly clean oil on the dipstick. So that'll definitely be something that'll get changed if I get it running, obviously. This is definitely something that's going to be a fun project for me. I can't wait to get started. Below 15 degrees, use SAE 20, and above 15 degrees, use 30 weight. Above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 weight oil. So that's interesting, motorcycle oil. So I'm going to start, like I said, I'm going to get this battery out. I'll change out that ignition, and we'll see if this thing has a spark, and see if we can get any fire out of it. Boy, that thing was dirty. There's one. There's two more on the other side. Let's see if we can pull this off. Okay, there we go. Wow, look at that. Cobwebs everywhere. That does shed a little bit of light on the carburetor and air cleaner. Look at that. So let's see here. What's going on with this? Boy, this is about a Mickey Mouse looking job here. They got rags stuffed in there, huh? Okay. Boy, these bikes, they built these things nice back then. Very solid. So it's stuffed full of rags. That's interesting. I don't think that was necessary. Kind of funny. So there's that little switch. Okay, so the wires for the switch are right there. Wow, interesting. That's actually kind of cool that they didn't really damage those wires. So that's a nice addition. That's a positive right there. Let me go ahead and pull this off here. This tape, I can definitely tape that back up. And what I'm curious about, yeah, they used the original connector there, so that's cool. And really, the new ignition is just an on-off switch, so it's not like, I mean, you're opening and closing a circuit, so it doesn't really matter, in my opinion anyway, what wire goes where. It's a switch. Okay, so there it is. Here is the new ignition. Let's open this up. Have the new ignition with the keys and the wires. So it's going to look something like this. There's the keys. You get two keys with this bad boy. Put the key in, turn it on, turn it off. That's all it is. There should be a keyed area right here, this little keyed area. And if you look very close, you'll see on the far side there, there's an area where that key is supposed to line up with. There we go. I could not fit it with this rubber on here. It just didn't want to go, so I might try to slide this on now. I don't know if it'll go on there now, but I'll try. it would not fit in there. I tried for about a half an hour to get it to fit in there with that rubber on there, and it just didn't want to do it. But it looks like it's gonna work that way, so that's cool. And these are very simple, straightforward connections. Just right there, boom, done. That's a wrap. How come that one's not connecting? Okay, it looks like I might need to tighten that a little bit, crimp that bad boy a little bit around there. There we go. So now we have our ignition installed. I'm very curious if this battery, if it's gonna work or if it needs charged or replaced. I'm prepared for just about anything. How does this work? Okay, that's gonna roll out. There's the battery. Okay, so there's the negative. And this battery appears to be dry. So, doesn't look very promising, to be completely honest with you. Yeah, I'm just gonna replace this battery. It's dry. It doesn't have any liquid in it. There's no sulfuric acid in there, so let's just go ahead and pop a new battery in. So I will disconnect right there. So I've basically, that's the power for this. 6 volts. You got a ground and then 2 other leads, and that's it. So the negative was just grounded to the case of the bike. And I think I'm gonna clean this area out a little bit more while that new battery is going to be charging, because I got to put liquid in the new battery and I have to charge it. How does it look in there? A little cobwebby. Hopefully I don't get some big old spider getting me. The wires look like they're intact, like they're in decent shape for as old as this bike is. The battery here, we just want to fill it up to the upper line. This is sulfuric acid, so don't squeeze it too hard. Just be patient. Make sure that you have eye protection on. We're going to go all the way to the upper line right there. Wait for the fluid to stop and then go to the next one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring that one up to the level. Wipe this bad boy down. And now we'll add the battery charger. Make sure that it's on 6 volts, that you're not on a 12 volt charge. Make sure you're on 6 volts. We'll connect the negative first and the positive. You can see it sparking. Now we'll let this bad boy charge. Okay, let's unplug this charger for a second and let's take our voltmeter and see what we have out of this battery. I'm getting 7 volts. So this battery's ready to put in. I'm just going to put a little bit of electrical tape to tape these wires back into place. I like the way they had them kind of taped up. It was kind of nice having them nice and secure. So I'm just going to do that here. That looks good. So now that those wires are nice and secured, let's go ahead and put in our new battery. There it is. Now the new battery is officially installed. And let's turn this on. Do we have a headlamp? No, we do not. But what I'd like to check is to see if I have spark. I'm going to pull this spark plug. let's see what we got here. Interesting. Let's put that there, and I'll ground this thing and I'll kick it over. I'm hoping I'll find some spark. I'm not seeing any spark. No spark. And that's what I was hoping I wouldn't see. It's a lot easier to get fuel delivery than it is to get a spark for me personally. It's time to take off this carburetor, this air stuff here. That's kind of Mickey Mouse looking, and this air box back here. So let me go ahead and get started on all of this. There's one more right here. Okay, there's a screw right here straight down that'll pull off this air cleaner kind of deal that they got going on. I mean, I guess they did a pretty decent job. It's kind of weird looking, but I guess something's better than nothing. They use like some aluminum stuff. Kind of interesting. I have a feeling that there's probably going to be a new air cleaner in the future. I want to take off this carburetor. So I got a couple, what appears to be 10 millimeter. So there's one. And how am I going to get to this other one? Back there. 10 millimeter. So that's good. So I just want to loosen this up because I want to go through this carb, get this carb cleaned up. Make sure that I'm going to get good fuel delivery out of this thing. And let's just pull upward mildly. Don't want to pull too hard here. Looks like that's maybe stuck in there, so I'm just going to pry mildly here. Very interesting. That's seized up in there. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and pull these fuel lines off. And I'm not too worried if these get damaged because I'm planning on replacing these fuel lines anyway. So let's just pop that bad boy off. There's one. And I noticed that this is moving. That's kind of weird. I don't think they're supposed to do that. So it might end up needing a new carb too. Quite possibly. New fuel lines, new carb maybe? No problem if that's the case. I don't know why this won't come out. Normally these pull just straight up. The guy that I bought this bike from said that it had ran a few years prior to me buying it. So I just don't think that that's very accurate information. It's pretty clear that this bike hasn't ran in a while. The old battery, I put acid in it and I put it on the charger and it's not taking a charge, so the decision to change the battery out was a good decision. There, finally. Let's open this up as much as possible. Spray some of that good stuff in there, and I'll just let that sit for a bit and I'll come back and try it in a few. Time to take the gas tank off. Two 10 millimeter bolts on this side, and the other side looks like I might have to take off the exhaust because of this guy right under here where my finger is. Hopefully you're seeing that right there, that guy. And then the other one's right there where my finger is. And now I'm going to attempt to pull this tank off with these fuel lines. I'm just going to cut them to save time. 1, 2, and there's the gas tank. Now I'll pull these lines through and get these bad boys out. Yep, we're gonna put brand new lines in there. So there we have it. I think I'll take this hinge off so that I'm not dealing with the seat, because what I'd like to do is clean this gas tank. Get it nice and clean. Didn't plan on doing this much work to the bike, but kind of glad that I am, because I think this is going to be a good running little bike. I have a feeling that it's going to be pretty cool. So on the carburetor, this part here, you can see it was gummed up. It was gummed up pretty bad. I had trouble getting this out, getting the carburetor to release this. But I finally got it to release. I had to put some PB blaster on it, and I let it sit for a couple hours. I used a little bit of carb cleaner and finally got it to release. And I'm happy about that, because now I can adjust the throttle. Hopefully you're seeing that. So the throttle is a little bit tight, but it's working. Another thing that I noticed is when I turn the ignition on, you can see this light comes on and off. So this is the neutral light. I also noticed that the horn makes a sound. So very interesting. So I went to the parts store and I got 3 feet of fuel line to replace these old fuel lines, and I've gotten 2 inline filters, and this is the state of the carburetor right now. It's very dirty. It's going to need to be cleaned quite a bit. Right there on that, where my pinky's trying to touch that little nut there, there's a fuel filter inside of there. So the on-off valve, you got your main and your reserve. And then of course you got your insulator right here, so that the temperature of the manifold, so you don't distribute that heat into your carburetor. That's what that plastic piece is for. I'm going to take off this insulator, and we will remove this O-ring right there. And we'll set that insulator and O-ring apart away. And this thing is very dirty. So here I have a little dish full of gasoline, and I'm going to use that to help clean up this carburetor. So I'm going to break these screws and get into there. I'm going to get into the back here. This is a fuel filter, and then the 4 screws for the bottom of the bowl, and get in and get to the jets and stuff like that. So hopefully this shouldn't be too hard to clean. Okay, here's a look at the carburetor. It is completely cleaned up. Everything is good. There's the choke. You put it down, it opens it up. You put it up, and it's choking. This little knob here, if it's in, you're below 6,000 feet of elevation. If you pull it out like that, that's when you're going to be above 6,000 feet of elevation. So in our neck of the woods, we're not going to pull that out. This screw is the idle adjustment. So depending on if I get the bike running, I'm going to be playing with this screw right here, adjusting the idle of the bike. What I've learned about this carburetor, if this arm is in this position, you're getting fuel from the main. And if you aim the tail of it towards the reserve, that is reserve. Just to make a note here, I wish I would have used gloves. Little rubber gloves, but look at how dirty. I mean, that is probably the dirtiest carburetor I've ever seen. Look at that. That is just ridiculous dirty. So hopefully you enjoyed that section cleaning out the carburetor. This is kind of tight, so I want this to be a little looser. So I'm going to take this off and spray some maybe WD-40 down in that line. I'm also going to clean the varnish off of this part here that's going to go inside the carburetor, as well as installing the carburetor itself. That is a lot better. And that was pretty easy. So let's continue. So something just happened that I've never seen happen before. I was kicking this thing over and the kickstarter broke. Look at this. I have never seen a kickstarter break before on a bike. So I guess I'm out of the water for now. I gotta order a new kickstarter. Thank goodness that there's a lot of aftermarket parts for these bikes on the internet. Got a little welding done and I got this thing back together. I'm not really a good welder, but I'm a great grinder. Now I did run into a small problem. That is this spring. I was not able to get this spring on and get that keeper on. So I'm going without the spring. I could not get this to compress down enough to get that keeper on. So I'm gonna go with it. I mean, there's always a chance that I can buy a new one if I need to. So I'll put this in my little parts kit with the things of this bike, and I'll just put this back on and keep my fingers crossed that it'll work. So we will put this something like this. Get that bad boy there. Get that screw where it's gonna line in. And that is a wrap. See, this thing is just gonna rattle and stuff, but it is what it is. If I had a way to compress this down real nice and get that keeper on, I would definitely do it. But this is what I'm stuck with for now. And so here we are, 5 or 6 kicks later. My weld did not hold up. It broke. So I will be buying a new kicker for this bike. Okay, so I got a little bit of an update. This is the fuel line that this was the new fuel line, but I got this from O'Reilly's, and I noticed when you make a tight turn on this, it kinks. And I didn't like that. Plus, these 2 inline fuel filters, they leak. I even tried putting clamps down around here where my finger's pointing, and it didn't do anything. So these inline fuel filters didn't work for what I was doing. So I decided to change it. I went and got new fuel line. This is from AutoZone, and when you make a turn on this, it doesn't kink. It's a lot better fuel line. Also, I noticed these little barbs where the fuel line plugs into the carburetor had came loose. So I took some JB Weld and I JB welded those things on yesterday. I also made a little adapter here to hold this overflow tube, and this is just a piece of baling wire, so that way in the event that the bowl gets full and the float maybe gets stuck or something, the fuel is going to come out the bowl right down here and not all over the engine and stuff like that. If we look at these 2 lines, the one on the left is the main and the one on the right is the reserve. Okay, so it's the tank is going to sit basically like this, and the way that I know which one is which one is if I take a flashlight and let's see, I look down inside. Hopefully the camera's picking this up. The one on the left with that little barb there, that is normal on off. So that means that this one is just on and off, and then this one is reserve. So I'm glad that I got that figured out. So I got my fuel lines ran, everything's looking good. I also took a little bit of paracord right here and I just lifted these wires up, and it's real loose. I just didn't want them resting on the head here, the cylinder, where it could get hot. So I just got those up out of the way so there's no problems. Oh, take a look at what came in the mail today. Got a little Kickstarter here. Wow, this is gonna be cool. Oh, I'm so excited that this new Kickstarter came in. There we go. Nice. Took some sandpaper and I sandpapered the points, and I also sandpapered the spark plug. Okay, this has been struggling a little bit with getting fire. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna pull this plug out and we're gonna test this thing for fire. We'll put that in like so. We'll ground that to the case, turn the switch on, and kick this bad boy over. You see it's got good fire there. It does about 4 or 5 fires and then it quits firing. So hopefully you were able to see that. We're going to try a brand new spark plug. See if this helps. This is the same one. This is D8HA, which is the same plug that this bike calls for. So we'll put that there, turn the key back on. Nothing. So it's definitely something other than the spark plug. I think that this might fix the problem. This is a brand new coil. So let's take a look and see how this looks. So you have 2 wires here, got the coil itself, and a brand new spark plug wire. Let's go ahead and install this and see if this helps with getting spark and getting this bike running. I have a good feeling that it will. So as you can see, I've taken the muffler off again, the battery out, the fuel tank off, and there's 2 nuts right here that you can loosen to take the old coil out. Here's a look at the old coil, and you can see that the spark plug wire was severed. It was just sitting in there, and it looks like, see this glue and stuff, it looks like somebody tried to glue it back at some point, and maybe it was just kind of floating there or something, and it wasn't terminated all the way. So kind of thinking that that connection was bad. So you can see that there's 2 wires. You have a red and a green. The bolt pattern's the same, so the mount's the same. And you also have just 2 wires. You have a yellow and a green, so it shouldn't be that bad. Should be a pretty straightforward mount. I'm going to push this boot back a little bit for just a second. We'll disconnect the red here, and it's right there. We'll go ahead and make that the yellow. We'll disconnect the green, and we will connect the new green right like so. Come on, there we go. Just these little bullet connectors. Now we'll pull this boot right back over these wires, put the new coil up. Let's see, where are those bolts? I'm looking down from the top, hoping to find them. Kind of funny. So I'm gonna tinker with this, and I'll check back in once I get this in. Okay, let's go ahead and see if this thing will start. Turn the key on. Sounds pretty good. go. Now I'm happy, very happy. Sounds good too. Okay, it's oil change time. There we go. It probably hasn't been broke loose in a long time. Let's see what this old dirty oil looks like. Oh yeah, that is black oil. So it definitely needed an oil change for sure. Wow, that is crazy. So it was good that I took it for that little run, because it got me the ability to heat up the oil for changing. But I can't believe how dirty that oil is. Synthetic 10W30 4-stroke motorcycle oil. My plan is put some new oil in, run it for a little bit, and then change it again. And that way I'll flush out this system. This oil's cheap, so it ain't gonna cost an arm and a leg, and it'll be good for the bike. So there's that. Cool thing about these bikes is they only take 1 quart of oil. So we're just gonna dump the whole quart in there and call it a day. And so nice finally having this thing running. I'm not out of the woods yet though. I still have a lot of work to do to this bike. The motor and stuff seems to be good though. Transmission, everything's shifted. I went through low range, all 4 gears, high range, all 4 gears. Got it up to 50 at one point in high range. That's crazy because I had no idea how fast or slow this bike was. Low range, I think it got up to like 30 or something. That was just crazy. So there's the new oil, SuperTech synthetic 4-stroke 10W30. Put the little dipstick in and take a look. Yeah, that looks so much better. That's a lot better than what we had in there. New oil. There we go. I'm gonna come around and try to adjust this idle a little bit. I'm gonna just back it off a little bit. There we go. If your idle screw does not adjust the idle of the motor, you need to time your points. And I've already done that. Didn't really film a lot about that, but I did that. So 0.14 on the feeler gauge is the gap that I set there. I know that somebody out there is probably gonna freak out. Don't put that on your chain, but that's what I'm gonna do. Put some WD-40 on my chain. Let's get it nice and clean. There we go. There, now it can be nice and free. So take rid of that, take some of that rust off. So I'm gonna slime these tires. So I'm gonna get the valve stem a little bit towards the top. Use my little tool here. Take out the innards of the valve stem. There's that one. We'll let that drain. We'll come do the back one. And I'm going to put 8 ounces of slime in each tire. The reason I'm doing this is because there's tubes in here, and even though the tires are a little bit sketchy, there's tubes. So the slime is going to be in the tubes, and it's really going to do a good job preventing leaks. I am going to put new tires on this, but just not right now. So in the meantime, we're just going to deal with some slime. Okay, let's see, how does that look? This is a 16-ounce bottle, so I'm putting half in the front, half in the rear. And that's about it right there. So the front tire's done. Let's go ahead and put the valve stem core back in. And I'm trying to remember where I put my air gauge. I think it's over here. Okay, not sure where my air gauge is, so I'm just gonna have to kind of eyeball it here. Go by feel. That should be good for now. We're gonna put the rest of this in the rear. This is really good stuff. Slime is such a good thing. Okay, almost done. There we have it. Put the valve stem core back in. There we go. Now we'll top off the air on this tire. A little bit more. Yep, that feels pretty good. So now we're done. Okay, let's take a look at the 1969 Honda CT90. This is the Honda Trail. I just got it running, so this will be the first run. Wow, it started on the first kick. It must have helped that I got that timing right. This thing's pretty neat. I'm in high range. Brakes, let's see, yeah, the brakes work pretty good. So let's go for a little cruise. No clutch, so that's a little bit different. Speedometer does work. Wow. So I'm doing a little bit 20 miles an hour. Down to first gear. Check that out. All right, let's see how we can do. Bottoming out the shocks a little bit. So it's basically you just got 4 downward gears. Let's go up this hill. Pretty cool. 3rd gear. 4th gear. Boy, it gets a little gutless there. I'm not used to this hill shifter. Boy, that thing's got a little pretty good low range. 2nd gear. So I know that when I get back home, the first order of business is change the oil on this thing, slime the tire, slime the tubes, and make sure that the tires are good. I'll probably put new tires on it. I don't know. Maybe if I slime those tubes, it'll be good to go. Doing a little over 30 miles an hour, probably 35 or something right there. Hill shift. That takes a minute to get used to. Let's try this front hand lever brake. Okay, it worked good. The brakes are actually pretty solid on here. Went all the way down to neutral. Okay, so let's turn around. And what I want to do, I know this sounds crazy, but I want to do like I want to go across that flat area over there, and I want to do like a top speed kind of thing. I want to see what it'll do if I open it up. Second gear, third gear. I can go 30 easily, I'm seeing. I think this will be a good little camping motorcycle. It took a lot for me to get it going. I had to do quite a bit of troubleshooting and stuff, and now it starts on the first kick. I had to re-time it. It's not loud, it's a quiet bike. There we go. I think I was in second gear for that. I love that semi-automatic transmission. That's cool. No clutch, so you don't have to worry about it. All right. Third gear, I believe. Second. Wow, you can go down the hill. Brakes work pretty good, actually. Okay, I'm in neutral. Go down to first, get across. Now we're gonna open this bad boy up. We're gonna get it going fast. Second gear, third gear. Fourth gear. Third gear got me almost 40. I'm doing 40 right now. And I'm not opened up all the way. Woo! Better slow it down. Slow down the little Honda Trail, third gear. All right. I ran out of room to run there. I was up to about 40 though. Back to neutral, so you just hill shift all the way until you hit neutral. Not a bad little bike. All right, I'm gonna stop here in a minute, and what I'm gonna do, okay, I'm in neutral, so I'm gonna get off the bike here and I'm gonna shift this down to low range. We're gonna see what low range does. Okay. First kick, wow. Low range. Wow, that is low. There's third. All right, fourth gear in low range. About 30 miles an hour. That is hilarious. Okay, let me go back to high range. That is too slow. There we go. Let's try to do. There we go. Okay, we're in high range again. Low range is just too much. Wow, I love that it starts on the first kick. I do feel like I need to adjust the carburetor, the idle, just a hair, but I could do that when I get home. Okay, let's go. First gear. Second gear. Third gear. Fourth gear. Third, second. And the brakes are actually pretty decent on this thing. All the way to neutral. Wow. I still haven't been able to get a full speed out of this thing. So I'm gonna do that here in a minute. I'm gonna see what this bad boy will do. third gear right here, so we're gonna open it up on this straightaway. Miles an hour. I hit 50 just now. 50 miles an hour out of this little thing. Wow, that is just crazy. Who would have thought 50 miles an hour out of a little 90? Nobody coming behind me. So I'm gonna just take this bad boy. I need to get her home, but that is just crazy. Nobody coming. All right, here we go. This is a nice little bike. It runs good for as little as it is. Little 90, it's doing great. 40 miles an hour. Let's go on in there. That was a decent little ride. 1969 CT90 Honda Trail. Thing runs great.